Now, we would like to invite Richard Leder to the stage, who is on the Board of Friends of Asha, Australia. Richard, we are delighted to hear your thoughts on association with Asha.
Thank you, everyone. On your behalf, I'm hoping I'm one of the last speakers, but it is such an honour to be here. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to begin by saying how surreal it is to walk into a magnificent residence such as this and to see so many familiar faces, and it made me realise how privileged my wife Lizzie and I are to have been to Delhi several times now and to experience the incredible warmth of an Asha function. And it's certainly a great pleasure to be here tonight, speaking again on behalf of the international supporters of the Asha Society, but particularly the Australian Friends of Asha. I acknowledge our chair, Mr. Robert Johansson, who regrets that he's not able to be here tonight. I speak also on behalf of our board, our Australian donors and supporters, and we congratulate our dear Dr. Kieran Martin and the entire Asha team for 35 years of extraordinary love, care and support. Support that means that literally millions of the most underprivileged and disadvantaged slum residents here in Delhi have been able to live, be secure in their homes, be healthy and give their children opportunities and business and various philanthropic trusts. But above all, we've supported education. And there are so many of you here tonight who can speak better than I can to describe Asha's achievements. But to think that with Asha's support and the inspiration and practical guidance of young adults who continue to pay it forward, countless children, and particularly girls, have stayed in school rather than being sent to work at a young age, and have therefore been better equipped to make their way in the world. Many hundreds, if not thousands, have graduated from Delhi universities and other tertiary institutions. And this is where Australia comes in. As you've heard to some extent already, we now have 10 students who've travelled to Australia to undertake postgraduate studies at leading Australian universities, including Melbourne University, my hometown, Sydney University, who, as we heard, honoured Kieran last year with an honorary doctorate, so she's now Dr. Kieran Martin. And of course Brisbane University, where the Chancellor is Australia's former High Commissioner to India, Mr. Peter Varghese. Now, none of this is news to my colleagues, particularly from the UK and including His Excellency, who've tutored so many skilled young people, but I want to acknowledge Abhishek, who, as we have seen, has returned to India after completing his studies in Sydney. Tripti, who will be heading to Australia hopefully early next year. And of course, Suni and Sumit Mahini, the first female students from Asha to travel, and Juhi, who are all undertaking master's degrees at Australian universities. And if that's not enough, I want to call out and speak the names of Chandan and Tushar, who are both studying PhDs. I have to also, if you'll indulge me, mention possibly our favourite in Australia, Usha. She was the first to travel with Dr. Kieran. I think the first to travel overseas at all, certainly the first to travel to Australia. And in 2016, she came first to Sydney and then to Canberra, and you think you're wowed tonight by what you have seen. And I know many of you will have seen so many of our amazing young people speak, but to have seen Usha speak in front of the Australian Governor General in Canberra was something that I will never forget. Now, there's much about my involvement with Asha that's inspirational, and awe-inspiring and humbling, but I'm sure that I speak with everyone here in congratulating each and every student for their extraordinary achievements. And they're the essence of the Asha value of paying it forward. And in the years to come, they and those who follow them will continue to have impacts way beyond the little that Asha's friends from Australia and elsewhere will ever achieve in our own humble way. 35 years is an incredible milestone, and I'm sure I'm not going to be the only speaker this week who will have Googled, which of course didn't exist in 1988, to search for highlights of that year. So I'll save some of the list for others and remark only or ask only, who remembers floppy disks? You know that the Netherlands became the second country to connect to the internet in 1988, and also in 1988 a NASA scientist used the term global warming in testimony to the US Congress. On my wife Lizzie and my flight up to Delhi yesterday, I watched a legend of the Australian music industry, and Asha will like this story, the late Michael Gudinski, and it's appropriately called Ego. His words resonated with me, and I wanted to share a bit of Australian wisdom with you. And the music legend Sting, who was also in the documentary and who Gudinski promoted in Australia, he said, "Success doesn't prevent you from being a citizen. You have citizens' rights, but you also have citizens' obligations." Tonight, we don't need the magic of Sting to motivate us. We have Kieran. And I'm sure that this week's celebrations will motivate all of us to keep meeting our citizens' obligations. Now, while it's important to celebrate the past, it's equally important to look to the future and to imagine what the next 35 years will bring. How many students will have excelled, how many lives will have been saved, and how many will have been improved? And with that in mind, Kieran, it's my great pleasure to announce that the Australian Friends of Asha are delighted to commemorate this important milestone by committing the funding of $60,000 Australian to supply and fit out a mobile health clinic here in Delhi. Now, I hope that this week's addresses and hear of other support and commitments that will help make this a truly special birthday for Kieran and all for whom she works. Thank you.